This is the Tokyo Butter 23 Sneaker Channel, Tokyo Butter 23 Sneaker Channel です。毎日アップするので毎日見てください。And every single day, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And we're still in front of the green screen here, but we are over the hump. I've been challenged a bit recently to get a lot of things done in my personal life, my professional life, and in my YouTube life. And we're getting over that hump. If you want to know more about that, there's a link down below that says something like what's happening in the channel over the next couple of weeks. You can check that out, but if you're not interested in that, then just keep paying attention and listening, because we're going to get into today's shoes, and there's three of them that we're looking at today, and they are the three different CORTEZes that are coming out to celebrate the memoir called Shoe Dog. As I said in the introduction, today is all about the three different CORTEZes that are coming out to celebrate the memoir by the founder of the Nike company. Well, there were two founders of the Nike company. There was Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman, and Phil Knight has his own memoir coming out, not Bill Bowerman, just Phil Knight, and it's called Shoe Dog. And to celebrate the release of that memoir, they're going back in time, back to when the company was first formed in the early 70s, and looking at three original designs of CORTEZes that were planned for release back then, and one that was actually released back then. And we're going to have a look at those today, and we're going to decide which of the three is going to be the biggest and the most hyped, which one's going to sell out the best. But before we do that, this is a YouTube channel, and YouTubers always ask you to subscribe to the channel. There's a reason for that, because subscriptions is how we judge and measure success on YouTube, and I am trying to get this channel up past that 1,000 subscribers mark, so please do subscribe to the channel. And as I am here in Japan, I do slip into Japanese and say things like 登録お願いします。今400何十人が登録をしてくれてありがとうございます。感謝しますが、1000人以上が必要なので、登録をお願いしますので、ぜひ登録をお願いします。Okay, without further ado, let's get into these three sneakers. So like I said, it's celebrating the memoir Shoe Dog that's coming out. A great name for a memoir if you ask me, and I'm sure there's history there to do with why Phil Knight has the nickname Shoe Dog and why he's called his memoir Shoe Dog. But to celebrate that, we're going back in the history of the CORTEZ to the very original CORTEZ, which was the first shoe ever released by the Nike brand, as far as I know. And as I say in my channel a lot, I'm open to people challenging me, I'm open to people discussing things with me, and I'm very open to people telling me things that I don't know. Now, my understanding is that the CORTEZ was the first ever Nike shoe, but I might be wrong. And if I am wrong in that, please hit me up with a comment down below and let me know. But anyway, we're going back in time to those original CORTEZes and having a look at the three that are coming up. In fact, they should be dropping the day after tomorrow. If you're watching this content on the day that it drops, they should be dropping the day after tomorrow, or is it in 3 days' time? But anyway, very soon these guys are going to be dropping. And like I said, there are three of them. Now, there are some commonalities between the three. The first commonality, of course, well, it's a CORTEZ. They're all three are CORTEZes. But the first thing that you have to look at is the colorway. They're all red, white, and blue inspired colorway. And I think maybe the first one that we want to look at, well, you want to talk about the names of all three sneakers. You've of course got the original CORTEZ, but there's also Peregrin, and the other one is Dimension 6. And Peregrin and Dimension 6 were names for Nike that were discussed and thought about alongside Nike when they were deciding which of what to name their brand new company back in the early 70s, and they went with Nike, or as we say in the UK, Nike. And Peregrin was another option that they came up with, and the other one was Dimension 6. And because they have those three possible names for the company, that's why they're bringing out these three CORTEZes to sort of represent those three things. So if we look first at the Peregrin ones with the big bird on the side, it is that red, white, and blue colorway. But if you imagine you can see the branding is that Peregrin with the long wings sort of streaking back behind the bird itself. But if you imagine, if you take that branding, you take that piece of design and think about it, would that have looked good on Air Jordan 1s? Would that look good on Air Maxes? Would that look good on Vapor Maxes? You know, if that Peregrin design was along the side of the shoe instead of the swoosh, you know, so you've got that stripy Peregrin instead of the swoosh. And especially since there's that sort of four wings with the three white lines between them, there's a kind of hint to Adidas in there a little bit, so I can understand why they went away from it. It's such a big, clunky sort of branding. I'm not surprised that they decided not to go with that. Then the next one we'll have a look at is the Dimension 6, 6s with that red circle on the side with a blue sort of background, kind of a striped banner background with the red circle in the middle of it there for the Dimension 6 variant. And again, I mean, I think for me, compared to the Peregrins, I think the Dimension 6 circle, if that had been the brand of Nike, and they called it Dimension 6 instead of Peregrine or Nike, then that was the design that went on the side of sneakers for, you know, the 45, 50 years of the history of this company, it wouldn't have been too bad. I can see how that circle design isn't too dissimilar to, say, the N on New Balance. It's not too dissimilar to the Saucony, is that how you pronounce that? You know, with that the sort of branding on the side of the shoe. So I think it would have been, you know, an adequate, shall we say, piece of branding. But then we look at the actual original Cortezes with that really thin Nike swoosh on the side. I really dig that really thin Nike swoosh on the side, which is the original dimensions of the swoosh as it was back in the early 70s when these released for the very first time. And you can see, to me, that the branding of that swoosh is absolutely essential to the Nike brand. Like I said before, with that circle from the Dimension 6s, that's just a bog standard general way to brand a sneaker. Mid-foot, centered, sitting right there, here's the branding. Even Adidas do, if you think of the cages, for example, on Ultra Boosts and the three-stripe branding on Adidas. But the swoosh, it kind of stretches into the back of the sneaker. And I guess it sort of echoes the length of the Peregrine, because the Peregrine was like, you know, from mid-foot all the way back to the sort of heel area, and the same with the swoosh, it goes all the way back to that heel area there as well. So for me, I mean, obviously these guys are paid a lot of money and they're effectively geniuses, so they know what they're talking about. But for me, the swoosh of the three designs I'm glad that that's what they went with. I think it was probably innovative at the time. It was probably a risk because it went against what normal sneaker branding was doing at the time, and still does today if you really think about it. But it does definitely stand out from the other two, and it is a cracking looking sneaker. Personally, it's the one I would go for. I would go for those original Cortezes look, even though the other two are kind of iconic, especially because of their history. I think that the swoosh is the shoe to go for. Having said that, I'm expecting all three of these to sell out. I don't think you'll see people sort of, you know, waiting and looking and seeing on these guys. These guys are going to sell out, and I think all three are going to sell out pretty fast. So if you want to get your hands on a pair, you're going to have to be pretty fast with the fingers on the drop date. Okay, that's enough from me today. It's time for me to sign off. Like I said, I'm almost done with this whole thing with the green screen and all that. Although I'm pretty sure I'm going to keep going with the green screen because I love it. I think it's brilliant. And I hope you at home appreciate the content as well. And like I said, I'm trying to grow the channel as fast as possible. I'm going to drop a video sometime this week about my plans for the next stage of the channel, because after my trip to Guam last week, I realized I have to kind of take it up a notch on the channel, and I want to talk to you guys about that later this week sometime. But for now, it's time to sign off and do what I do at the end of every single video, which is say that I will definitely see you tomorrow.